Welcome, everybody. Diamond Effect Podcast, episode 201. In this episode is for you if you are about to build a team, or maybe you're already started hiring help for your business. And it doesn't matter if you're hiring contractors or actual employees. It will help you whether you have one person helping you part-time or a team of 5. And even if you're thinking about expanding your business or you're noticing that you struggle with people leadership and it doesn't come to you naturally because maybe that's what you expected to come. In this episode, I will share my 5 principles that guided me throughout my people leadership experience. The idea came to me from a question that I received not so long ago from a brand new manager, somebody who wanted to grow their leadership skills. And I thought I would share that with you because many business owners are in the stages where they're going from solopreneur to now expanding their business and getting help from other people. Leadership is a huge subject. There have been thousands and thousands of books written about it. Many people, consultants, other leaders have advice, and all of that can actually overload you when you're just starting and thinking, I just want some simple things to help me navigate my early journey. Sometimes when you start digging into leadership, certain advice is contradictory, or it can be confusing, or it's applicable to large team and large corporations. And you might wonder, how do I actually apply it to my small business? How do I apply it to my first virtual assistant, on my first 2 service providers that will deliver services alongside with me to my clients? So if that's you're in the right place, what I did for this episode is I took my theoretical knowledge, not only from business studies and leadership studies, but many, many leadership books I've read, and combined it with my practical knowledge. I've actually been a people leader for over 15 years. Not only have I built the teams from scratch, so hired people, trained people, and so on, but I also turned some low-performing teams around into high-performing teams. I've led hundreds of people over those 13 years, motivate them, train them, help them grow in their careers. And I also performance manage them. And I did let people go in my career. So I combined that into 5 simple principles that will really help you step into people leadership journey that can guide you. And I promise you they work no matter how advanced you are in your journey or how early you are and how many people you lead, whether they're your contractors or employees working for your business. Those principles are very valuable. Those principles can save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches. So let's get started. The first one is lead by example. I'm a huge believer in that. There is too many people out there in the world, especially in politics, who call themselves leaders and they say one thing and do completely different things. That's not leadership at all. And I don't want to get into this topic, but let's focus on the principle. Since we're kids, as human beings, we're really wired to observe others and build our trust based on not what other person says, but what they do. Because what we do is a true reflection of who we are and what we believe in, right? And we as human beings have this sixth sense about it. And you see it in children, right? Children don't do what parents tell them to do. They mimic their parents. And that doesn't go away as we age and as we become adults. It becomes this subconscious thing. So people do not trust leaders who say one thing and do something different. If anything, they become very weary of those leaders and cynical when the behavior contradicts the words that are being said. So if you want your employees to be punctual, you have to be punctual. You cannot be coming late to the meetings, whether it's team meetings or meetings with them, or even to work if you're in a physical location. If you want your people to be engaged, you need to be engaged. I had somebody tell me once that they're working for this nonprofit company, and the executive director of the nonprofit was meeting with their team on Zoom with the camera off, or they weren't present during the meeting. If that's you as a leader, you can't expect your team to be engaged during the meeting. You can't expect your team to really listen to what you're saying if you're not present when they're talking. If you want your team members to be reliable, you have to be reliable, not only to your clients, but especially to your team members. So let's say if you're promising them a party at some point, no matter what, that party has to happen. If you're promising them a pay raise at a certain time or when certain conditions are met, that needs to happen when that time arrives or the conditions are met. What leading by example does not mean is you doing the job of your employees, showing them that you can do it and so on, right? Sometimes, yes, we hire employees to help us with something we've done before and we're able to show them and do that. But sometimes we hire people for their expertise that we do not have and we pay them for that expertise. Therefore, we cannot do that job because we just don't know how to do it. That's why we're hiring them. So leading by example, it's not about being able to do exactly the job that you're hiring somebody to do, but it's you showcasing in your behavior the values and the principles that you want to see in every single employee of yours, no matter their role or technical skill. The second principle is know your people. You're not a leader if you do not know who you lead, if you do not understand and really deep understand people who you lead. If you have so many people under you that you're not able to get to know them, that means your org structure should change and maybe you should get help in leading people in the form of hiring team leads or managers, right? You always need to have enough direct reports under you where you will have time to spend with them to get to know them. And there's two levels of you knowing them as professionals. So understanding what are the strengths, what are their skill sets that you can play to and utilize for them to be successful in their job. And through that, help you grow your business and achieve the goal. You also need to understand what motivates them. There are some people who get motivated by external praise and they love it. Some people actually hate that. All they want is you recognizing that, let's say they're doing a good job, but they want it to be done quiet and just in conversation. Knowing your people will allow you to lead them better, will allow you to increase retention, increase their satisfaction, and get the best out of them, which ultimately translates to them contributing the best or the most into growing your business. And they can't stress the importance of that. If you read books, they give you an idea of how to retain and motivate people, but they do it like a brush all. Everybody is the same. And of course, yes, if you're a large corporation, there's 80% of what motivates people that's the same for everybody, right? So that 80% can be structured into processes and proper pay and bonuses or other things. But there's always 20% that it's individual to each team member, and it's up to their direct leader, their manager. And if you're a business owner, small business owner, you to figure out and know your people to then help them be the best they can be, because ultimately that serves you. The second layer of you knowing your team or team members is you knowing them as individuals, as human beings. So going depth beyond the professional level, understanding who they are as humans, what are their passions, who is their family, do they have family, what do they like to do outside of their professional life. What that does is build connection, trust. The relationship that you have with them is stronger. It builds better loyalty to you and your business, because every one of us wants to be heard, seen, and understood, and wants to mean more to their employer than just a skill set or just a number. And taking time and effort to get to know your people for who they are as individuals achieves that goal. That does not mean you have to be best friends to everybody. That does not mean you have to think of them as your family and invite them to your private or personal events if you don't want to do it. But it means is you have a deeper connection with them and therefore stronger relationship. I found that in my career, it helped me so much. My team members with whom I built that relationship were not only very loyal to me, but they were willing to go above and beyond. They were passionate about not only their roles, but just being able to help the team and myself because we had such a strong connection. People work with people, people work for people. And if anything, the mission and vision and ideas and impact, they don't work just for paycheck. Paycheck is the foundational basic. Of course, once people are able to fund their basic needs with the paycheck, they look for more. They look for fulfillment, for purpose, for connection. And if you're able to create that environment that gives them that, they become very loyal and you can really retain your best people this way. Rule number 3 is have their back. You always need to have the back of your people. And here's what I mean by that. You need to establish a clear set of rules and how to operate in your business. So the rules in terms of how to behave in our business, right? What's important to us, the mission and vision, and also set of rules for each role. What's allowed, what's not allowed, what are their goals, and so on. But once you have that and it's clear and you train your team members to understand that, then have their back if they're operating within those rules and within that structure, even if, let's say, they might handle a situation differently to what you would do. An example is, let's say, you had a team member who dealt with a customer and there was a challenge with that customer. A customer was complaining and they handled that situation, maybe not the best or maybe not exactly how you would like to handle. And at the same time, they still stayed within the rules that you established. In that moment, you have to have their back. You cannot throw them under the bus in front of the customer, or even if it was in private, tell them that they did something wrong if they operated within the rules. Yes, there's always opportunity for coaching and saying you handled that well, and maybe that option could have been better, but you can't punish them for using their discretion and using their creativity coming up with a solution as long as they didn't, let's say, break the rules that you established. That also creates safety for your employees in doing their job. Safety is one of the most important feelings that your team members need to have in order to operate at their highest level and help you grow your business. So let's just say if the customer wasn't happy with the resolution that your team member given, you would not want to tell the customers, oh, they did something wrong and I don't agree with them. What you want to tell the customers, okay, my employee handled it within the parameters of our policy and so on. And then if you still want to give customers something more, depending on the situation, you can say, right? But there is a difference in how to handle. You want always to have their back. Another way you show that you have the back of your employees is by removing obstacles that they might encounter on their day to day, on their path to achieving the goals of the business that they cannot solve for themselves because the obstacle is too big and it falls outside of the role, or it's too challenging, too complex, or it falls outside of the parameters that you set for them that they can operate within. So let's say your team members are not as effective as you would like them to be. And it's not because they don't know how to do their job or they don't know the process or they're not being creative with how to improve their effectiveness. It's, let's say, because they don't have proper tools with technology to be even more effective. It's your job then as a leader to figure out what technology and tools they need to give you the effectiveness that you are expecting of them. Rule number 4 is do not micromanage your team members. You're hiring people with skill sets to help you grow your business. They have a set of experience, set of creativity and skill sets that you will never have because there are just different humans, right? Use that to further your business. Don't constrain your people to doing exact steps the way you would do their job because that is impossible. There are just different people. And then that means you would have to micromanage them. And if you're doing their job, what's the point of you hiring them? And then just knowing you cannot do everything in your business if you want to keep growing it and scaling it. So if you find yourself having to micromanage somebody, you need to ask yourself, are they the right person for the role? And maybe they are, but maybe you haven't trained them properly. They haven't got, or they don't have a proper tool, or maybe they're not the right person in the role. And then you have a decision to make. Or another thing is you might be having the trust issues or control issues, and that's not the fault of your employee. That's something you as a leader need to handle. And this is your growth area, your personal development, leadership skills that you need to expand on. I very often talk to small business owners and they're like, nobody can do the job as well as I can do. And I find that not true 99% of the time. From my experience, very often I found employees who were better at what I used to do and brought their own perspective and therefore improved whatever that was than me. I like to hire people better than me, but also different than me so they can improve on whatever I've built. And as a CEO, you always want to be focusing on 20% of activities that deliver 80% of the result. And those activities will change for you as you scale your business. So the another 80% of activities, some of them don't have to be done and you can delete them completely, but some of them will have to be done. And that's what you keep passing on to your employees, to your team members as you grow your team. And trust me, if you have the right people in the roles, not only they will improve on what you were doing before, but they will be also more creative and can take those portions to the new levels. So how not micromanaging looks like is you giving your team member an outcome that you want them to achieve and certain set of rules if they are important to that, and then leaving it up to their creativity to achieve that outcome. Because there's many ways, always many ways to achieve one outcome. You might see only 5, but then your employee will see another 10. So for example, you would like to increase customer retention by 20%, and you hired somebody or you're promoting one of your existing team members, you're just giving them that. You might set a rule where you say, okay, we want to achieve 20% in customer retention, but we don't want to achieve it through discounts and giving people discounts just to keep them, right? But then, and so that can be the parameter you set, but then how we are going to achieve them and so on, you might want to leave it to your employees and then just check on it in regular meetings and check-ins that you have with them to see what they're coming up with. You can help them brainstorm, but you don't want to impose on them every single idea. Another example could be maybe you're hiring somebody to help you with the social media. Again, setting a goal. Okay, what do we want to achieve? Maybe we want to achieve more following, better engagement, and so on. The parameters around could be whatever we post needs to be in alignment with our brand and what we're all about and our values and so on. However, then individual post or individual engagement on ideas, you leave it up to whomever you hire to help you with this, because hopefully if you're hiring an expert and a creative person who can bring your social media presence to the next level. I promise you, nobody likes to be micromanaged, because micromanaging means you don't trust the person to do their best work. And when people don't feel trusted, it affects them negatively, and they're definitely not going to care, because they'll be like, what's the point of me trying to do my best and be creative if I can't do it because I'm being micromanaged? So again, if you find yourself when you need to micromanage, you want to ask yourself, do I have the right person in the role? Why don't I trust them to do the right thing? And if the answer is maybe it's me, I have control and trust issues, then you need to work on yourself. And if it's the other person, they're not right in the role, then you also have a decision to make. And that brings us to rule number 5. Do not keep low performers or toxic people in your team ever. I find that small business owners sometimes keep wrong people in their business for 2 reasons, usually. Reason number 1 is when they see, but they're such a nice person. So they have a nice human being in a role, but it's a wrong role for them. So the person is not really performing well, and they're probably stressed and not feeling good. But the business owner doesn't want to change the role or let them go if they don't have any other role, because they're like, oh, such a nice person and I don't want to hurt them. The second reason why sometimes business owners keep other, especially like toxic people and wrong people together, is that they, as business owners, want to be perceived nice, and they don't want to think about themselves as somebody who's maybe hurting somebody else by letting them go, right? And they don't want to feel the discomfort and negative feeling that unfortunately comes with letting somebody go. Here's a couple of things I want to mention here. First of all, it's normal to feel sad and have some negative feelings or feel discomfort when you think about letting an employee go. Only a sociopath would not feel anything. Because, of course, as a compassionate leader, you know that you letting somebody go will affect them negatively, even if it's just short term. When you let a person go because they were just not the right fit for the role, or especially if they're toxic, you're actually doing them a favor. If somebody's not performing well in a role and you cannot relocate them to the role that they would perform well, you're freeing them. You're allowing them to find something where they will be able to succeed at, when they will feel amazing about, and then hopefully have actually a better career, rather than them getting stuck and just be there because they might be thinking, oh, I need the paycheck. I have the role, so I will stick with it. Even though I hate it, I don't feel good, it stresses me out. So as a leader, you're actually doing them a favor. When you're letting go a toxic person, you're actually doing a favor to your team, to your best employees and yourself and your business, because they get affected by the toxic person. And if you keep a toxic person in your team, you're actually pushing out your best people, because your best people will never want to work in an environment that's negative, that's toxic, and that's rewarding the wrong people, right? Because they're thinking, maybe, why do I even try if I have this other person sitting next to me who's toxic and they are being kept and rewarded and maybe given some basic benefits or bonuses when I'm here doing my best and receiving the same treatment. Because true leadership, it's not about you. Being a leader, as opposed to individual solopreneurs or individual contributors, your focus shifts from you to your team members and your team and your business, right? Your role is to empower them to achieve and help you achieve business goals and to do everything you can for them to be the best they can be. Because in the long term and short term, it benefits you, it benefits your business, but it's no longer about you. So, as a leader, we need to be able to put aside the fear or the feeling of discomfort when we need to let somebody go for the good of the business, to the good of the team members that are actually doing well. It's not that much different than when you're a parent and you need to tell your child something they don't want to hear because they're doing something that doesn't serve them. And in the moment, you might feel like a bad person, but it benefits whatever you're teaching your child in that moment, benefits them in the long term to become good, kind human beings that contribute to the society, right? If we let our children eat all the crap in the world they want to eat, it wouldn't serve them long term in their health. So our child might not like what we tell them in the moment, but ultimately they will appreciate it down the line. And leadership with your team is very often the same. Sometimes we need to say the things or do the things that a person in front of you might not appreciate in the moment, but they're just the right thing to do for them or for the team and the business. I hope this was helpful, that those 5 principles, if you just take them and apply them, you will be a much better leader that creates not only strong, high performing teams, but those teams create better results for your business and ultimately your business grows. Now, if you want more help in your specific situation in your business, I invite you to book a free consultation with me, and I will share the link in the show notes to book it. Have a fantastic week. See you soon.